Hi readers, happy Tuesday. So keep in mind we're going to be live tomorrow and Thursday at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. So by fourth hour, that is 10 a.m. And then for fifth hour, that's 11 a.m. And then I have office hours today from 2:40 to 4 p.m. So make sure to stop by if you have any questions or concerns. And yeah, just let me know how I can help. Today's learning target is going to be students will be able to gain more information as they continue to read the text. So what our plan is for today is we're going to continue our deep study of character, and we're going to jump into what is called a theory chart and how that can shift our thinking when we're looking at that. So when we're looking at a deep study, to think deeply about characters, not only do I want us to think and expect characters to be more complicated and show more than just one trait, but I also want us to revise your thinking when you get new evidence. So you used to think this, and now I've learned, so now I believe. So when we're talking about character traits, I want us to think about how a character's behavior affects that. And so everyone has character traits, both good and bad. Character traits are just often called descriptive adjectives. So it's like a way to describe someone. So just like us, characters are more complicated than just one trait. And like yesterday, I have one of these sheets. I'm talking about different character traits that people have. So you could be silly, sincere, skillful, shy, smart, sneaky, snobbish, sociable, stingy, strict, stubborn, studious, sweet. And so there are ways that we can describe people with meaning. And so what is a theory chart? And so today when we're analyzing our text, I really want us to think about Will's character traits. So here's our sum from yesterday. And I want to blow up this one because this was one that came up later towards the end. Especially when he was talking about like his moment to shine, needing to change, or he was forever going to be an unpopular child. I was trying to make it bigger and it doesn't want to let me. So here are some characteristics from yesterday. And so your assignment for yesterday was to submit a descriptive word for Will that you thought was the most important. So some people put down foolish, tough, scary, intense, because he was making it sound like a life or death situation, like he can never change or befriend anyone. And so today I want us to talk about how as we keep reading a text, characters reveal themselves over time and how we can revise what we were thinking to begin with as we learn more. So we're going to demonstrate that today with popularity. And so when we talk about Will being bitter, there are some pieces of evidence about him being bitter, and I can point to a book and actually list out where that is. So if I'm thinking about being bitter or sarcastic, I might think about, let me think for a second. Maybe how he like hates picking clovers with the Allens. Can we also just talk about how the author made both the friends, or not friends, acquaintances named Allen? He also seemed really bitter about having to pick these clovers for 6 months. That's like commitment, y'all. That is like some intense commitment. But when I'm thinking about, he is still bitter. And so, especially when I'm reading this one part, let me keep reading. I wonder what my position in the group might be. I certainly wasn't a great athlete, student, or ladies' man, but I did have a sense of humor. Maybe I could be the second funniest boy in the 4th grade. My thoughts went no further because the bell ending recess rang, but that night, just before I fell asleep, I saw myself standing in the center of the popular boys, telling the funniest stories anyone had ever heard. I saw seeing Owens doubled up with laughter. I saw myself triumph. And so right now I'm trying to think about what character trait holds true here. And I'm seeing a shift in Will, because he isn't really bitter or sarcastic, but he's a little bit more almost hopeful. If I can get my mouse to do. So he's a little bit hopeful, which is a huge shift. And so what he's hoping is he hopes he can become the second funniest in the grade. And you see him shift to imagining new roles he'll play in a group. So readers, right here, what we just did was we shifted our thinking from what we normally do, or what our original thoughts were. So when we're thinking about how we would describe Will, we kind of talked about how he was kind of bitter and sarcastic, very intense. And right over here, we see the shift to then and hopeful. And so this is what we can call a theory chart. So today what I want you to do is to think about how you would make a theory chart for your independent book that you're reading. And so I will have a couple of examples on Schoology as well for images for different theory charts. And this is mine for today's work. So that's what you're going to be submitting to Schoology. And then I'm going to record myself finishing the story so you guys have the rest of the popularity text. Okay, so this is going to be the read aloud part 2. So where we left off, Will had been studying the group, the popular group, especially Sheen Owens, the athlete, super popular kid, and his sidekick, Mitch. And Mitch is the funny guy who Will was thinking that maybe he could be the second funniest. I returned to the group every recess for 3 days. I stood unnoticed just outside the outer circle, waiting for my moment, for my one joke or wisecrack that would make me popular. I knew that I only had one chance to prove myself, and that if I failed, I'd be back to the stables. And so, the single-mindedness of the scientist, I listened to the jokes the other boys made, hoping to align my comic sensibilities with theirs. Now and then, I found myself on the verge of saying something, but every time I opened my mouth to speak, Mitch would launch into a new routine, and my moment passed, and I resigned yet to another day in the dark. I did not know that popularity has a lifespan, and that Mitch was about to run out. It is a sad fact of life that the clothes a child wears and how often he wears them determines his rank in school, society. I knew it, Sheen Owens knew it, everyone in school knew it. So maybe it was carelessness or temporary insanity or a subconscious desire to step back into the stress-free shadows of anonymity that caused Mitch Brockman to wear a yellow shirt with a yellow pair of pants, but he had gotten away with it if I hadn't left for school the same morning unaware of that one folded cuff of jeans that were noticeably lower than the others. As it was, the two of us were, in conclusion, course that allowed only one of us to survive. At recess on that fateful day, I took my customary place at the foot of the popular boys, wondering if I would get my chance to prove myself, and I listened to Mitch tell another variation of a story about the Wiener Mobile. I pretended to enjoy the story as much as the others, while my mind strayed to a dream world where I did not have to feel so out of place, and Mitch and Sheen and I were the best of friends. And then, with a suddenness that jarred me back to reality, Mitch Brockman, a boy who'd never noticed me, never seemed to know or care that I was alive, turned to me, pointed at my uneven pants, and said, "Someone needs a ruler." This was perhaps the wittiest remark he'd ever made, and I froze. With 4 words, he had devastated all my aspirations, defined me as a fool, and all but condemned me to a life of shame and abnormality. I could see my future and my boyhood itself crumbling to the dust, and as I heard the laughter and felt the heat of the spotlight upon me, I pointed at Mitch's yellow pants and shirt and said, "Somebody else needs a mirror. You look like a canary." Then, with the grace of the magician's assistant, I raised my left arm and in a presidential gesture and said, "Boys, I give you Tweety Bird." I heard the laughter and I felt the heat of the spotlight upon me. I pointed at Mitch's yellow pants and shirt and said, Someone else needs a mirror. You look like a canary. And it was all over. As the volume of the laughter doubled, Mitch seemed to vanish, and that day on that playground, seeing Owen's laughter was heard for the first time. In an instant, Mitch Brockman became Tweety Bird, and I, an absolute non-entitled, became somebody. And then somebody special, someone to seek out, someone to follow. Seeing Owen's first jester and best friend, the entire transformation was complete in a matter of months. During this time, Mitch became a less and less vocal part of the group, telling fewer and fewer stories, until finally, the following year, he was gone. To another school perhaps, or another state, or perhaps another country. I never knew. No one knew, because no one noticed. No one had called him for months. But my phone rang. My weekends were filled with sleepovers and baseball games and bowling parties and bicycle races and more new friends that I knew what to do with. And I did not trust any of them, because I knew that I was standing on sand and was only a yellow shirt and pair of pants away from the oak trees where the two Allens were standing for four-leaf clovers. And we'll talk some more about the book of popularity, but that was Popularity finished.